So you've submitted an application to IRCC, and after that you move to a different address, either within your same province or a different province in Canada. Or let's say you were outside of Canada when you applied and you moved to a different address. So then how do you notify IRCC of the address change so that if there were any important documents that were to be delivered to you, you receive them at the right address? Let's find out. So when you have an application in process with IRCC, you generally have two ways to change your address online. Number one, through their dedicated address change online tool, or number two, through a generic web form submission. If the address change is for an ongoing permanent residence application, or an ongoing citizenship application, or an ongoing PR card renewal application, all from inside Canada, you could use the dedicated online tool. If the address change is for a temporary visa application, such as a work permit, or for a PR application from outside Canada, then you can use the generic web form method. And also, if the dedicated tool doesn't work for some reason, you can still use the generic web form method for pretty much every application that is in process, whether inside or outside Canada. These web forms also allow you to respond to additional document requests from IRCC about any application that is ongoing. So they are a pretty versatile solution. So let's look at both these options. Now it's important to remember that for IRCC, you should only notify them about the address change if you have an application that is pending or ongoing. So for example, you applied for permanent residence, express entry or spousal sponsorship or a work permit application from inside Canada. Then if your application has not come through and after submitting the application, you actually changed your residential address, that's when you should notify IRCC about the address change so that any documents that were meant to be delivered to you at your home address, such as your new PR card or any correspondence that IRCC usually sends to you physically, they will be delivered at the right address. But if you don't have an application pending with IRCC, you don't need to notify them every time you change your home address. It's only meant for ongoing applications. So you head on over to this page, I'll link it below. As you can see, it says for immigration and citizenship, meaning you can use this page to change the address for your ongoing PR application or your ongoing citizenship application. That's what this will work best for. So there are three options here, and this tool will work obviously best for in Canada applications. We'll cover the outside Canada applications in a second. So let's assume you're in Canada, so select that. Then it's going to give you a bunch of criteria and categories. So as it says, your case must be processed inside Canada. So normally if you apply from inside Canada, your case is processed in Canada. And then you must already have an address in Canada that you want to change. Your move date is within 3 weeks or you've already moved. Now they're flexible with the date deadlines, so it's not a hard and fast 3 weeks deadline, but the sooner you notify them while your application is in process, the more the chances that they will update it for you and you will get your documents delivered at the right address. So you have to do this quick. And then your application must be one of these. So number one, if you sponsored a member of the family class. Family class meaning you sponsored your spouse or common law partner or your dependent child from inside Canada, meaning it's an inland application. And this is about the sponsor. So let's say you are the sponsor who's sponsoring your family member. You could use this tool to change your address. The number two, applied for permanent residence from within Canada. So now this is talking about the principal applicant, the one who is applying for permanent residence. So if you've submitted a PR application, whether it's for spousal sponsorship or express entry or provincial nominee program, whatever, any permanent residence application from inside Canada, you could obviously use this tool to change your address. This is what it's going to be most applicable for, PR applicants. Now you could also use this tool if you applied for your permanent resident card, more specifically your permanent resident card renewal. This is more to do with PR card renewal applicants who might have moved to a different address after submitting their PR card renewal application. By the way, speaking of PR cards, if you're in the process of applying to renew your PR card and you're looking for ways to understand the instructions, forms, documents, and all the eligibility criteria better, then I've covered all that in 2 separate videos, which should be showing up on the cards here. They're also linked below. It's a separate playlist for PR card renewal, and you can watch those 2 videos sequentially. I'll link it below. So coming back, you could also use this dedicated tool to update your address if you have a citizenship application in progress, or you've applied for proof of citizenship or to renounce or resume citizenship. Now, 2 important things to consider before you start using this tool. Number one, for this tool to work, like we discussed, your application must be in process. For example, for permanent resident applications, most of the time IRCC will send you an acknowledgement of receipt email or an AOR email to indicate that they've received your application and now it's in the system for processing. Sometimes they would just skip past this AOR email and directly send you a biometrics or medical request or any other correspondence specific to that application, which also indicates that they've put that application in the system, they've locked it in, and now if you try to use any of the online tools, they should likely be able to search that application. Number two, this tool is effective, but it does not work all the time. So when you input your information in this tool, it will try to search your application in the backend, and if it finds a match, then obviously you will be able to make the changes. But oftentimes, even if you've done everything right, you've received all the correspondence from IRCC, this tool may still struggle to find your application in the backend. It actually happened to me, and it does continue to happen to a lot of people. At this point, I just think it's an optimization issue with this tool. It's probably a bug that has to be tweaked out, and it's a fairly new tool, so this has to be expected, and it will continue to get better with time. But this does happen with this tool. So to begin, you'll click on Start under step 3, and then you check the security agreement, and here this is where you will fill out your information. So first up is the identification type. Now, depending on the type of application, you can use any of these identification numbers to search for your application. Usually UCI works best for most applications, as pretty much any application you do with IRCC, it's linked with the UCI. So your UCI is your 8 or 10 digit unique identifier. If you're a permanent resident, you can find this in the front of your PR card or your COPR document. If you're a PR applicant, then your UCI is likely listed on your AOR or your biometrics or your medical request for your application. So you just enter your 8 or 10 digit UCI here without the dashes. Now, your AOR, biometrics or medical requests likely also have an application number. It's usually a 10-character alphanumeric combination, might look something like this for express entry, or might look something like this for spouse or common law sponsorship. Not every application will be assigned an application number, but if you have an application number, you could also try searching by that. If you're trying to search for your PR card renewal application, then you can try with UCI first, but you can also try with your current PR card number. And it should be this alphanumeric combination on the back of your PR card. And for citizenship applications, you can try searching by citizenship file or group number. You'll find this citizenship group number on all correspondence except the initial AOR, which is mailed to you by the case processing center. It's going to look something like this. It's all digits. Then you enter your last name, your date of birth, your country of birth as per your passport, and then hit continue. If this tool finds a match for your existing application, then it's going to show up on the next page, and then you will be able to make the updates. So obviously it tells me it can't find a match because I don't have an application in progress, but if it does find a match, it will tell you. So it will show you your old home address and then give you an option to enter your new address. So it's a pretty straightforward step-by-step process. So just enter your new address in the space provided. If you have multiple people listed on your application, then you can also update the new address for other people as well. You'll just have to list the details for the other applicants in your application. If it's just you, then you can skip that part. And that's it. Your address will likely get updated in 5 to 7 business days. Now, as we discussed before, this tool might not always work. So even if you have received correspondence from IRCC and you're doing everything right to feed information in this tool, it might still not find your application for you. So if that happens, don't stress. That's why we have the alternative option of the web form. So let's see how you can use a web form to change your address. So back to this page, you select in Canada for now. If you're in the United States or outside Canada and outside United States, the steps are going to be pretty similar. I'll show you in a second. But for now, select in Canada. And then when you scroll past this step 1, 2, and 3, as it says here, if you can't change your address online, meaning using this tool that we just discussed, you can change your address using the web form. So you click on this link to get to the web form page. Then here's the web form page. I'll also link this directly below. Then you scroll down and you click on update or ask about your application. Now here you'll see various categories of web forms that you can submit depending on what kind of request you have. So whether you want to check the status of your application, update your contact information, add or cancel a representative, or respond to an additional document request from IRCC. The good thing about these web forms is they are not just restricted to permanent resident or citizenship applications. Even temporary residents such as visitors, study permit holders, or work permit holders can use these web forms to inquire about their files or update their address information. So we are discussing address update. So you'll click on this change or update your contact information tab. It's going to show you a prompt with 2 options. First, if this address change is for your initial permanent resident card, meaning you are a new immigrant and you're waiting for your first ever PR card after immigration, and while you were waiting, you actually changed your address. So now this new address is different from the original address which was listed in your COPR document where they would have initially sent your first PR card. So you definitely have to inform them about the address change so that they can send your first PR card to the right address. So if this applies to you, meaning you're a new immigrant waiting for your first ever PR card and wanting to change your address, you can try this dedicated tool first. Again, if it doesn't work, you can come back and do the web form. Then it also gives you a link for other applications. So if you click this link, it will just bring you back to the page that we just looked at, which is the dedicated tool for address change for PR and citizenship applications. So in this scenario, we are discussing that tool didn't work for you. So that's why we are doing a web form. So you just ignore these links and click on continue to form. Then here you select I am the principal applicant, assuming you are handling your own application. Then here you enter your first name, last name, email address, date of birth, country of birth, all exactly as per your passport. Then there is a tip here telling you to fill in only one of these three fields: application number, unique client identifier, or passport number. Now I can't really find the passport number field here, but the application number and the UCI fields I can see. So you need to enter either your UCI or application number, only one. And we just talked about this. If IRCC sent you any correspondence about your application, then one of those correspondence letters must have your application number. It could be on your AOR or biometrics or medical letter. And not all applications are going to have an application number. But if that's your case, if you have an application number, you can enter the application number here. You could click on this I button to get a sense of what your application number might look like, depending on the type of your application. Now, if you don't have an application number, no problem. You can just disable this application number field here and just enter your 8 or 10 digit UCI number here. I already covered where to find your UCI earlier in the video, so you can just go back a few minutes and watch that section about locating your UCI. You can also click on this I information button and see what your UCI looks like. Then under what did you apply for? So you have a bunch of application categories to select from. If you're updating your address for a study permit or work permit application, then you select temporary residence and then select the right subcategory. If it's a PR card application, select new or renewal, whichever applies. If you have applied for permanent residence, then you select that and then the right subcategory, whether it's FSW, FST, PNP, express entry, spousal or common law sponsorship, both inland or outland. Now, if you select permanent residence here, it's going to ask you if your application is being processed inside or outside Canada. So if you're an inland applicant, meaning you applied from inside Canada, then most of the times your application will be processed inside Canada. So then you can just select no here. Now, if you're an outland applicant, meaning you applied for permanent residence from outside Canada, very common scenario for express entry or spousal sponsorship applications, then your application could be processed inside or outside Canada or both. It really varies from one application to another. So if you applied from outside Canada, you need to know your visa office in order to know whether your application is being processed inside or outside Canada. And the simplest way to know your visa office is to see if it's indicated in any of the correspondence letters that IRCC sent you. So if you can find your visa office and it is an office outside Canada, then you select yes here. And then from this list, you can select that visa office. It should be in that list. And in case you can't find your visa office mentioned in any of your correspondence letters, then not a big deal. Don't stress about it. You can just select no here and continue. Once you submit your web form, it gets to an officer. They will be able to determine what your visa office is, and they might be able to connect your web form to the right visa office. Then UCI, we already talked about this. You either provide your UCI or your application number. So whichever one you are providing, make sure to disable the other option. So if I'm providing my UCI here, I am going to disable this application number option here and vice versa. Then it will ask you what contact information do you want to update. So here we are talking about address. So you select this mailing or residential address option. Then here you enter your complete address, your new address in Canada, and make sure you fill out all the necessary fields here. Then is this your new mailing address or residential address? So usually mailing and residential address are the same. Most people receive their mail where they live. So you select both and then enter the date this address comes into effect. So you can enter the current date or today's date. Then you click on review and request. And then here is the summary of your details. Make sure everything looks good and then hit submit. Okay, now if you're outside Canada, say in the US, or you're outside Canada and the US, then the process is not that different. So say you're outside Canada and US, say in India, and you applied for permanent residence. So first you'll select this option, outside Canada and United States. Now, since you've applied for PR, you'll fall under the immigration application. So for ongoing PR application, they ask you to contact your local visa office of your home country. So you click this link and here you find your country. Say you're applying from India, so you'll search for India. And as you can see here, New Delhi is the visa office that is listed here. So you open this and here you'll either see a dedicated office website link which you can contact, or more often you'll see this web form link here. So you click this web form link and you'll be directed to the same web form page that we just saw earlier. So you just submit a web form request similarly. Same process will work if you are in the United States as well. Now you can also use web forms to respond to additional document requests from IRCC. Or let's say you didn't even get an additional document request, but you just realized after submitting your application that you might have missed an important document which could create problems later. Then you could actually upload that document in a web form and submit that to IRCC. Now, if you've managed to link your existing PR application to your GCK account, meaning your IRCC secure account, then what they'll do is they'll email you about the additional document request and they'll tell you that you could use your GC key to upload the additional document. So you just log into your GCK account and you should see an option to provide additional documents open up there. So obviously in that case, you don't need a web form. You can just provide your document through your GCK account. By the way, if that is your case, if you're trying to link your existing PR application to your GCK account and struggling to do so, then I've actually explained the process in this video, which is also linked below. Watch around the 15-minute mark. That's where I explain how you could try to link your existing PR application to your GCK account. I specifically talk about a spousal sponsorship application and how you can link it to the GCK account, but you could use the same logic to other PR applications as well. But again, if you've tried the GCK method and it's not working for you, don't spend too much time on that. That's why you have the option of a web form. So let's check it out. So on this page again, you click on update your application, select this option, add a document to your application. Then select I am the principal applicant. And again, list your name, email address, date of birth, country of birth, and then provide your application number, which would be on your AOR, biometrics, or medical request letter. Then here you select your application and its subcategory. Again, you have a bunch of options to choose from. Then select inside or outside Canada and visa office. We already talked about this earlier, so I'll skip this. And then here you enter your UCI. Then for this question, did we ask you to add the document to your application? So if IRCC specifically sent you a document request, an ADR, then you select yes. Then in this text box, they'll ask you to provide information on what documents you're providing and why. So as an example, say you applied for spousal sponsorship and they requested additional proof of relationship with your sponsor, a very common additional document request. So you can write something like, as per the document request from IRCC, I am hereby providing additional proof of my relationship to my sponsor. And I'm including the below requested documents. And then you simply mention the documents that they requested. And you don't need to write a ton of stuff here, just keep it short and to the point. And if they didn't send you an ADR, but you realized you missed providing important information to them, then you can select no here and explain what you're providing and why. Then here you will upload your documents. So if you have one document, just make sure it falls under any of these categories. PDF works best, and the size is less than or equal to 2 megabytes. If you're uploading multiple documents, meaning 2 or 3 documents, then each document must be 2 megabytes or less, and the total size can't exceed 3.5 megabytes. So choose whatever method works best for you. You just have to work with the limitations here. Once you're ready, just hit review and submit your request. Now, as far as the response of these web forms is concerned, that's where it gets tricky. Because unlike the dedicated tools that we saw earlier, where you would get a response in 5 to 7 business days, when it comes to a web form, it could take from a few days to a few weeks to sometimes even longer. So that's why I'm saying try with the dedicated tools first to update your address, especially if it's an urgent matter. And if they don't work, call IRCC to see if they can escalate the process for you. If that also doesn't work, use web forms as a last resort. And yes, web forms do work. They are a legitimate solution. You just have to be patient. Besides, they are your only solution if the dedicated tools don't work for you, whether you're inside Canada or United States or outside both. Speaking of legitimate pathways to travel to a country, step-by-step guide on how to apply for a B1, B2 visitor visa for United States from Canada is covered here. I'll see you there.